Good afternoon, good morning. Hello, Mac. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be in the world. Here we are. Ian's just walked in from
Literally.
a long walk. So well done. It looks like I've seen some videos of that. Oh, and was it something I said? He did wave. I did see him wave. Yeah. Well, what a funny. Oh, he's back. He went and he came back.
Yeah, dropped out.
Dropped out. Oh, with a way. That was good. It's been a funny old week, full of delivery drones again. And then today, GoPro come out with a patent for cancellation for noise for aerial vehicles. I'm not quite sure why. Wouldn't you just switch the microphone off? Because what else are you going to get other than wind noise? I'm a bit. Can someone help me?
Spying on people's windows and private things, you need that. The soundtrack's very important.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I was a bit lost as to why they want to get rid of the engine noise.
So is that the one guy they've left in a bunker somewhere? Gone. I've come up with something, and someone's going, "We fired you 2 years ago. Don't you realise?"
When you came out to file the patent application, you were fired. Yeah, that's right. Yes, that's right.
We haven't paid you for 2 years.
Oh, I don't want paying. I just want to work for the company, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. So I don't know what that's about. Does anyone see a point for that, or am I?
Well, the biggest complaint is known sound in most. If you like RTF stuff, most of the guys are complaining they want to add the sound, not take it away, which is weird.
Well, there's actually a lot of work being done by the movie industry for some reason. There's in New Zealand, we've got a crowd called Callaghan Innovation. They're like a venture capital company you go to if you're part of the Old Boys Network and they've got too much money, they throw it at you for you're going to do something fantastic and amazing. They ran a thing called the C Prize, I think it was. And one of the winners of that was a company that was able to produce a drone that was really, really quiet. So you could use a microphone on it to pick stuff up, supposedly for movie production and stuff like that. But I don't think movie audio is extremely critical. And I don't think you'd use any microphone on a drone to get any audio for a movie.
Yeah.
Why would you? Every time I've had it, and you have GoPros or whatever, all you hear is a horrible noise of the motor or props, and it's like, why do I need it?
Well,
it's like listening to a Mad RC video.
What I'm used to hearing is the sound of the motor or prop letting go. That's the bit I'm used to hearing.
Yeah, well, that's why you might have sound, isn't it? Just to sort of keep an eye on or an ear on what's going on.
I get the occasional shriek from a Karen or two, but mainly it's motor noise.
Well, in FPV, you want it because part of everything you do, it's interesting. I've spent a bit of time this week in the sim just to try and get a bit more practice in because I've been a bit lazy of late in many ways. And it's weird. I was flying the sim solid for a couple of days and then went flying and missed the sound because you're so used to it being there in the sim, unless you're literally flying close to you, which I wasn't. I was doing a bit of long range stuff and I'm thinking, it's awfully quiet. And actually what surprised me was just how loud the goggles become once you get away from the vehicle gets away from you a little bit, especially the DJI ones, because the fan just kicks in and it's like having a Hoover on next to your head.
Actually, some of the top freestylers like Mr. Steele, they actually use audio. They use audio from their goggles into their earplugs. But for me, I don't want audio coming back from the model because it gives me, I use the sound of the approaching craft to work out when to duck. You can get the head down at the right time because you're such a poor flyer like me. It's really important. It's a safety feature, not having audio.
Yeah, so I found that one a bit weird and then dropped in my inbox and I got into a little bit of trouble for posting the picture that I did. But anyway, what's new? Parrot are coming out with a new thing on the 30th. Nicely timed to have a pot with Skylio's event tomorrow, I think. In fact, let's click that just to open up the... this. Now look, new communication standard. That's interesting. Open to developers. That's interesting. Full open source app. That's interesting. Autonomous photogrammetry. Well, we know exactly who's that's taking aim at, don't we? And then new cyber security. Now the open source app and open to developers, because the open source side is exactly what the military want, because they can see what you're doing with the code. And other people. So that's almost a necessity now.
Well, Well, they're not in the consumer drone space anymore. So this is a commercial drone, you know. So, you know, the Anafi's always been a bit of a weird size. It's not the ideal size. You know, Skydio's bigger, DJI is. It makes sense for them to drop something in about Mavic 2 Pro size.
Yeah. Yeah, so that would just that little bit bigger it would be, wouldn't it? So what C? Because I did have a word to him, and I said, "All right then. Well, what would really be exciting is if it had a C marking on it, because we are getting into that territory now where if you're going to release something, it really should have a C marking, something new. Because what's that? 2023 that kicks in.
But it only needs it for consumer, Gary. If this isn't a consumer model, what's the point of it being C rated?
Is it explain. Unpack that for me. I don't understand why that's
remember, if you're a commercial operator or you're doing industrial stuff, you're going to fall under specific most of the time. Okay, right. You could use the A2 CFC or all of them, but depending on who they're wanting to sell this to, they may not have any interest in putting a C rating on it and just say it's under specific category regardless.
Okay, I don't think I quite understand those C rate markings very correctly. Then, what's the point of them?
It's for it helps commercial operators, but we're talking low-level commercial operators. Yes, it helps the high level, but at the end of the day, those guys who might be looking to do a lot of that are going to be flying in the specific category anyway. So it's not. It's important in a consumer drone because you can do stuff you couldn't do before. It's also easier for a general commercial operator who wants to do roof inspections, for instance. But for the higher end stuff, not necessarily.
How much does it weigh?
That was just going to be well, we don't know. We don't know anything about it. We don't know whether it's whether it's a Nafi with new software, or if it's a beefy new something or a small something. We just don't know. This is all that they've dropped today.
But it's sub 900 grams. That's a sweet spot it wants to be. If it's got a C rating.
Yeah. So that would put 300 grams, because isn't the Anafi about 600 grams or something like that?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
No, it's sub 500. It's sub 500.
Yeah, and then the Mavic 2 Pro is just outside. It's like 1,000 something. There's no reason the next Mavic can't be under. Even if they have to sacrifice a bit of flight time or something to do it, it's achievable. And they've got plenty of headroom. It makes sense to C rate it, but it isn't the be all and end all, depending on who they want to sell it to. New communication standard is quite interesting. So, and using the word standard. So the question mark is, are they going to introduce something that other manufacturers would want to use? And what is even more interesting is Parrot do make the remote control system for Skydio. That remote control is the Parrot remote, and there isn't a big stretch to be had that those two companies may be working together on something.
So it's going to be 5G. Wow, that's fantastic. But they now have competition, because did you see the report I put in the private chat about DJI being cleared? Yeah, DJI has been cleared of any sense that they have malicious software on board their drones, and so that may reopen the doors to US government use of the DJI system.
Well, it's quite funny that you should mention that. I'll put that one up in here. So that's Pentagon report clears use of drones made by blah, blah, blah. So that's that. There's half a thing I know about that I can't really talk about. But what I found interesting, so there was Parrot. Let's go back here and then go here, because the new CEO of Autel is pretty convinced, new as of today, is pretty convinced he's going to get them onto the blue list. So I wonder if that is part of that. I wonder if that's come out of that. I wonder.
Autel's a funny one because they don't really. They make a couple of decent products, to be fair to them, but they don't interact in the industry at all. They don't really. It's like they're here, but they're not. But yeah, this guy is an ex-DJI guy. He's ex-Flare. He's been around a bit. So they clearly, you'd only take someone like that on if you're interested in the US market. So that's clearly what they're up to,
Yeah, well, he's made statements that that's what he's going to do. He's going to get him on the blue list. And that dragon, I wish I put a picture of it. Not dragon, skyfish thing, wing, flying thing, aeroplane, VTOL thing they've got, blowfish. I can't remember what it's called. It's a cool $130,000 US. That thing. I'm going to get it now, and I'm going to get a picture of it. So they are. They plainly need to sell a few of those. Or tell anyone know the name of it? I can't remember the name of it.
If it costs $130,000, it lost my interest.
Is it Brian? No.
Is that Brian? Exactly. It was Dragonfish. There it is. There it is. Right, let's get a picture up here. The dragon. What did I say? Dragonfish.
Mark, you seem to be in 240p today. You're very low bandwidth.
What sort of bandwidth would he need to be on your new setup, Mr. Self-Serve?
Well, I've been doing some surveys, and most people seem to watch an HD or 720p on their mobile phone. So that makes life a lot easier if you serve at a 720p or a 1080p. And bandwidth, no, you won't need much. Same as YouTube, probably less than YouTube.
Well, I clicked that survey and thought, and I was looking at the results and then thinking, well, flipping heck, that's leaving me behind. Everyone else listening, watching flipping HD, 480 all the way here.
On a good day.
On a good day, yeah. Well, now time for a micro rant. So when I got back from school today, got a telephone call from my internet service provider because last week when we had a 15-hour outage, I happened to note on a couple of things like Twitter and things that what a shabby service it was, and they rang me up and said, "Stop complaining today." They called me up and said, "Stop complaining about our service. It's an excellent service." So I said, "What, 2.5 days with no service this year already? Is that an excellent service?" "I don't know. Do you get 2 days off in 5 months?" They said that was good. Do you get that in the rest of the world?
No. I get 2 hours in 5 months.
Mine was down last week. You're not the only one. Mine went down last week. Virgin were shocking. Because you ring them up or you try and get hold of them. The problem is with the way Virgin do it, you have to log in to the system. So you have to go to the website to log into your account to check the internet service.
Which you can't do.
You can't do if you haven't got
an internet service. Yeah.
And so I complained via Twitter. And I actually spotted what it was in the end. They couldn't tell me what was going on in my area, but then I saw there was a van at one of the junction boxes just at the end of the street. And I thought, oh, well, that'd be why then.
He's probably the man with the little water bottle that keeps the string wet.
That'll be it. Here's that thing. This is the $130,000 thing. That's a lot of money.
It flies under trees. That's why it's so expensive.
That's how much?
$130,000. Yeah. Crazy. Old Gene had a look at that thing in Texas last week. They had it there on display, and again, I think they were shouting about how they were going to get on the blue list.
I feel like you should show up with an RC glider, and go $130,000, everyone. It's just got an orange cube in it, and it's got a camera. There you go, $130,000. All you've got,
pretty much.
Well, it's a VTOL. I mean, all the trendy kids have got a VTOL, so you know.
Sorry, we can put some carbon rods across the arms, and we can just put 4 motors on it. $130,000. I'm still seeing the markup here somewhere.
I'm thinking a lot easier would be a few Zoft drifts wrapped in carbon foil. 20-30 grand each, I think. So it's a fair amount.
But with using the glider technique, I mean, the vertical landing is easy, and the vertical takeoff, it's a trebuchet.
Yeah, just chuck it straight up, overpower it, and they can all land vertically. I mean, that's easy. Anyone can do that. I've done loads of that over the years.
You'll use aircraft, yeah.
Is that one use, single use? I mean, you get to sell more that way, don't you? It's so I think that's
That's the point. Keep them cheap and keep them disposable.
Yeah.
Just 30,000.
What you lack in profit, you make up in volume.
Yeah. So that thing blows my mind. So it's interesting then that the DJI has sort of been given the nod by DoD. All I will say to that is I wonder if that is the Australian reasoning for that happening. I wouldn't be surprised.
It doesn't say what aircraft, does it? It says 2 aircraft, but it doesn't say what. Is it the government editions? And I don't mean this to say I don't trust them versus another. I'm just intrigued at what aircraft were tested. Do you know what I mean? Drones built for the government use. There you go. So yes. So it will be their government editions. So that will be the Mavic Dual. There's a Mavic Dual government, and it might be the M300. It might be those two then.
Yes. Yeah. So it'll be very, very interesting to see where all that leads. I guess I better chase that up. So that's really what I've seen this week. Now I've seen that you have also been annoying DJI and getting them to communicate with you about problems with problems with and what needs to be fixed.
Yeah, it's a silly situation that's rolled on and on and on, unfortunately, and it all stems in some ways from the launch of the V2s. But in the basics of it is, in the last week, a new issue had come to light on the V2 goggles. Only affects the V2s, not the V1s, which would allow them to switch. There's 2 modes. If you think of it like a PC that has 2 operating systems, the V2 goggles are like that. They have one operating system for the original FPV system and a new one for the new FPV drone, and they're both independent of each other. Now, the new issue was that under a certain set of circumstances, which is a low battery, the V2s could switch into the drone mode automatically, and you get stuck there because it wouldn't give you the option to switch back. Now, it's okay if you own the FPV drone because you just turn the FPV drone on, the option appears, and you can swap back. But for many people who didn't own the FPV drone, it meant if they used it with the traditional LiPo, you accidentally forgot to unplug it and it got down to a 5.2 volts. The goggles would enter this, frankly, horrible cycling. They'd just go round this loop and then reset themselves into the wrong mode and you'd get stuck. And the reality was then you were done. You either had to find someone with the drone or send them back to DJI. And this was we've seen a little bit of issues on this, but this specific one started to creep up in the last week. I started to see posts about it, and then I replicated it myself. And it got to the point where I just went, enough. If you have a product that bricks itself when the battery goes flat, you can't recommend it. There's a point where you just have to go, enough is enough. And, there's a lot of people said I wouldn't have said it if the affiliate program closed or thing. No, it doesn't matter what it was. That is the first issue I can remember that would brick a product I can recall with DJI. In all of the years I did testing, there was an issue in the very early days, a random firmware issue on the Phantom 3 and Inspire 1, which was the 0508 error, which would brick the camera, but it was a very random thing. It wasn't just when the battery went flat. Whereas this, you could let the battery go flat and it would brick the goggles. So that it was enough is enough. This needs to be fixed. And all I did was just put a video and said, don't buy them. I can't personally recommend them anymore. Now I know about this issue. It got a lot of attention from users. It got a lot of hate. It got a lot of people saying the problem doesn't exist, as you do, which is always quite fun. Because people go, well, it doesn't exist. And you go, no, it doesn't hit you yet. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You just haven't been affected. But to be fair to them, it obviously got their attention. I won't go into details because it was some good people I knew who contacted me, but there was something that made me smile a lot. When you see a screenshot of yourself that's been sent from the other side of the world, which is quite entertaining with the Google Translate on the bottom of what I was saying. And look, they just reached out and said,
Welsh, can it?
yeah, they just reached out and said, look, can you give us some more details on this? And I did, and to be fair to them, they take it on board really quick, and they've integrated a fix into the next firmware. So hopefully that problem goes away in the next 5 days.
I was just thinking about Louis, and he appears. That's good because he's off site, and I would almost lay money that he's got one of those new parrots.
Yeah,
because that's the sort of bloke he is. So, what are you going to tell us about it? What are you going to tell us about it, Louis?
No, it's all wet. Sorry, my only parrot is a green parrot, and it's at home.
Oh, fair enough. What part of the world do we find you in, Louis?
Still in Europe.
Oh,
eating some pasta and some spaghetti.
Oh, it's a clue. It's a clue.
Greece.
Yeah,
Greece.
Yeah, right. Starts with an I.
Israel.
No,
Iran.
it's the book.
So
Let me just
close.
say,
So close.
Well, that's this demonetized there, right? Before you even start.
Speaking, did you see that Iran had that, or in Libya it was, which is probably just down the road, that autonomous attack drone went out shooting people on its own? How good is that?
Well, what do we think about that story, really?
I think the media are just spinning another tale of rubbish.
I just wonder how long it is before drones do become automated. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. You'll have a swarm. You'll just go, anyone holding a gun in that village or that city or that town that's been
Or a
taken
stick.
over,
Or a
stick,
camera tripod.
or
Yeah.
camera, take them out, and they'll just go
Buy
do
them
it.
lunch.
They'll just
Have a movie. Go home.
Take
Give
them
them
out.
coffee.
Exactly. That's right. Yeah,
And then-
take them out.
and then you just go in,
Dainty bot.
take the bodies out, job's done.
I think
You
we're
watch
already
too much
there.
television.
No,
We're
it will
already there.
happen.
No, I think it's already happening.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
you see that Slaughterbot video that was on YouTube? That's the future. Those, comes along, fires a little explosive charge into your head. Poof, that's it. You're
Yeah,
over.
that's just what Nicola was fixing up last week, wasn't it? It was loads of those. That's exactly what that bloke used in that, wasn't it?
We can laugh about it, but that tech. Is
Yes, we can laugh
not-
because the difference between laughter and slaughter is just the letter S at the beginning.
Oh,
it
very
is.
good.
Yes, it is.
Very good.
You can imagine these things. There'd be a factory. You'd be able to go out. The army will go out with a steel container. They'll open it up, push a button, and it'll start 3D printing them. These little machines will just start flying out. Skynet is
Oh,
here.
word. Hang on a minute. We better write
But
this
you
down.
notice
I'm gonna
also
script
the
it.
media-
and then
the
Mike
media
wakes
calls-
up. And then
I
Mike
think
wakes
I
up.
think the
I need
3D
to
printing
patent that.
fumes are not working good on you.
Have you noticed the media call these suicide drones now? They used to be just missiles, but now they're suicide drones.
Yes, but then can a machine commit suicide?
Well, cruise missile doesn't.
Well,
You could use them
is
on
it
yourself.
really a suicide if it's not alive?
Exactly.
AI, who knows? It
So
could
it's
be alive.
just doing its job.
No.
Just-
It's all based on blockchain. It's all on the blockchain.
Of course, it's on the blockchain.
Does that
Yeah,
mean
why are
it's
they called
Bitcoin?
kamikaze? Why are they suicide and not kamikaze?
Because that would be racist.
Yes.
Oh, God, you're probably right.
How's your Bitcoin investment going, Louis?
Sorry?
How's your investment in Bitcoin?
Bitcoin. I leave it those to the con guys from down under.
What?
Wow.
Who's he talking about?
Oh God!
Gary?
Nobody has the stupid boards to mine Bitcoin. I don't know if they're making them or what's going on with that.
Well, they've just released 3 new graphics cards, the graphics people, which is kind of funny because you won't be able to buy them, but they've released them anyway. And now there's going to be a shortage in SSDs because the new way to do some mining is using hard drives or disk drives.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah,
everything is getting,
Same.
and the lead times on components now are stretching out to 52 weeks for some of these components we're using and all the stuff. And I was talking to the head of Radio Master, the Radio Master, people make radio control, talking to him this week, and he said that prices are going up. They're not going to be releasing much of their new products because they can't get the parts for them. And so I guess they're just coasting on the existing inventory of component they've got. So no use introducing new products with new components if you can't get them. And things are going to get really quite tight towards the end of the year in terms of being able just to get anything.
Well, Tesla have stated that their prices have jumped up by £2,500, or in dollars it's gone up because, again, Elon's saying the same problem, chip shortage. And there's a big chip shortage, but there's going to be 2 big investments in America to make transistors, isn't there? To make these little transistors.
They take years to come online.
Yeah,
Oh, God.
Hang on, let's just quickly build that factory a minute. Yeah.
It takes about a year to get a foundry just working. After they've handed the keys and all equipment's in, they take a long time to get right. It's funny. I'm hearing it everywhere, and it's not even major stuff. It's STM32s. It's gonna hit everything. You've got car manufacturers going back to analog dials because they can't get SoCs to put in the dashboards. Yeah, that's.
I'm putting my old Naze 32s on eBay. I reckon I'll make a killing.
I only wish that.
I have a few of those.
Yes. All we've got to do is label them crypto mining capable. Whether it's
crypto mining flight controller.
Crypto mining, crypto mining flight controller, and then they'll go.
I do know DJI have restricted the amount of P1s and L1 cameras dealers can. In fact, dealers can only order them with a purchase order number already. They can't order them for stock. They can only order them with a customer order in place because there's a shortage of, again, components. They've only got so many they can sell out at the moment. It's global. NVIDIA, as Bruce just said, have released now. Instead of going to eBay and the dark web to get scalped, you can now get officially scalped by NVIDIA Direct now, because you can now legitimately get scalped by the manufacturer because they've decided to shove 400 quid on the price of the TI model. But I suspect, though, the availability of these might be a bit better considering the price has gone up. But yeah, we are going to be in a tough year. Everything is going to be hit. Radios and it's the little stuff. And as Bruce was saying there about the radios, these guys are using fairly mundane STM32s that have been around a long time, probably on a 64 nanometer process node. They don't really have to worry about the size so much. But even there's a shortage there. There's a shortage across the board.
It's quite a scary shortage when you stop and think about it, though, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
It's not caused by anything specific neither, and this is the problem. It's a series of events that's got us here, and demand.
They did lose one factory, though, didn't they?
Yeah, for a period. That took it. Look, the car industry's fault is its own. The car industry, for instance, obviously Silicon, say, is about a 6-month rotation. When COVID hit in 2020, a lot of the car companies decided not to take up their position in the wheel, and because car sales were very, very low at that point, and then they rebounded very quickly. And now you can't just say, "Oh, I need those chips I didn't order." And that's the problem there. On top of that, you've had insane demand from 2 new consoles. You've had more people working from home than ever before. So laptop sales have gone through the absolute roof. You've then had the power issues in Texas, which affected one foundry. And it's all just come together. I do wonder how much of a play human malware has had as well that we don't really know.
I'm expecting Valve to make a comeback. I've got a stock of ECL85s here, which I think I'm going to be building flight controllers out of. It'll be fantastic. And a lovely tone, very warm tone to your drone.
EMP proof, a fantastic way of doing it. Yeah, very good.
What's also interesting, what Ian said, there's like cryptocurrency using hard drives. The problem is it does trash hard drives. And at the minute, the Chinese they're grabbing all the drives, but it's destroying them as well. So once this crypto's done with them, they just don't survive.
I'm not convinced Chia is going to take off. There's a lot of hoo-ha about it at the moment. A lot of people think it's a scam, and there's a lot of hoo-ha about it because they've been mining behind closed doors, and about half the currency is currently held in private.
This is full of deniers. Next thing you'll say that the virus was created in some laboratory in somewhere down east. Come on.
Now we're demonetized.
Try
That's
West.
for sure.
That
That brings up YouTube, though, doesn't it? What about
I
YouTube?
was
I know.
careful.
I heard of channels that got completely cancelled because they were spouting that line about the human malware being created in a lab. They got cancelled because it wasn't mainstream. And now the mainstream media has said, oh, yes, it's happening. And so you can say it now. But what about those people who had their channels cancelled because they simply were 6 months ahead of the mainstream media? This is ridiculous.
Well, you've got
Go to
this one.
BruceTube.
Facebook censored whose post for saying he's had his injection. Someone's post got censored. It was either Twitter or Facebook.
It was Philip.
It was Phillips, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was censored for saying I've had it, and this is why, I can't remember who I stole human malware off. I think it was Gamers Nexus, but they were afraid to even say the word because YouTube was just going demonetize.
Well, make a lot of difference to me. But the thing that's really annoying me, and we're going to have a semi YouTube rant now, is that super inappropriate adverts are coming up on top of my children's YouTube programs now, and it's just not on. It's here's hello James. No, look out, he's out. James is about. YouTube's over, isn't it? Really?
Well, that's caused by the US government themselves, who said you may not track children and you may not, use targeted advertising on children's videos because it's unfair. So they just throw all the low budget ads just get flicked onto the kids' videos.
Whereas before
What's
it was
Theta?
actually kids related. Now it's anything because they're not allowed to target. When does the advertising change kick in, Bruce? I've sort of ignored this.
It's supposed to kick in today, your time, the 1st of June.
Yeah.
I think they'll roll it out
Yeah,
fairly
last
slowly
week.
because they don't want everyone recognising what's happened. It'll be rolled out slowly over a series of months. But I've already noticed some channels that I know are
Okay,
not
mate.
monetized have had ads on them.
Cheers, Louis. Look after yourself. Take
Cheers,
care.
guys.
Bring the new next time. Bring the new
Bring the new
Parrot Clan, which we know you have. We know
You
you
know
have it.
you have it. He was
We
showing us
know
the
you
whole
have
thing.
it.
Even if it's in a cage. we
Well, it's
don't care.
big, isn't it? Why have they wrote Nikon on the front of it?
Yeah, they've partnered with Nikon for the camera.
Nicola on. Yeah.
Nicola on, yes. Look after
Yeah,
yourself,
well,
Louis. Cheers, mate. Bye bye.
Cheers.
They force parents to buy family
Right.
subscription. Yeah, Wolf. I think you could be
Actually,
right.
I need to get going as well.
Oh well, fair
Not
enough.
an early start tomorrow.
Put your hiking boots
I'll
on
be
up the
on
mountain,
that
find
bit.
that plane, eh?
Find that plane.
Not quite. Come on.
It's
Enough
snowing.
with that already.
We've got the snow here.
No, no,
We've got the same view at the moment. Yeah.
All right.
All right,
guys,
mate.
have a
Anyway,
nice one.
You look after
Just
yourself.
pretend you found it, Nicola, and then we'll shut up.
Yes, that's just a bit of foam out of one in another box.
Yeah, just get a plane, right? Trash it, and then just go, oh, I found it.
Yeah, well, might have to do that. We'll see. We'll see. All right.
All
Have
right,
fun,
mate. Look
guys.
after yourself. Cheers, bye bye. Now, James, in the comment, what is Theta that he's talking about? Decentralized YouTube, made by one of the original YouTube co-founders. So, anyone use that?
The problem with these is this, okay, I know Bruce isn't a big fan, but I'm on Library, Odyssey as it is now. And for me, it's a bit of a backup more than anything. The reality is, it isn't where the audience is. All of these things are all very well. However, unless you're going to be able to force the audience to follow with you, and there has been people do it successfully. Floatplane is one example of that. How successful remains to be seen, but Floatplane is an example of a creator taking his channel and picking and choosing the content they allow and building a platform that brings in money. Bruce is working on Bruce Chain, which is going to save the world, which will give us all. But the reality is,
Does it have
We
6G?
we are 6.2G to be precise. It's different to 6G. But the reality is, if you want your content to be seen, it's YouTube. It's like eBay. If you want to sell something used, you may hate eBay. It may absolutely do your head in. But the reality is, there's very few better places to sell something that you want to get rid of than eBay. And YouTube is in that same boat.
And I think it depends on the type of content, though, because if you look at, many of the vertical channels like Ian's and mine, we have pretty much reached peak subscriber because all the people that are interested have subscribed, and the rest of the casual viewing numbers are pretty low unless you get a viral. So it's practical for those channels to move onto another platform because they will take their user base with them. Already, a lot of people have said, we'll follow you wherever you go. But if you're trying to do a generic sort of general channel that tries to get as many views from as many people, then YouTube is still the platform of choice. But if you are a specific vertical niche, then yeah, you can change platforms or parallel on other platforms and expect to get a fairly good audience. I think we'll find out when I try it all out, see what happens. I'm not leaving YouTube, but I do want to give people an option, and that's just one way of doing it. If you look at Dave Jones, he's got 60,000 subscribers or something on Library or on Odyssey, and other channels like the Quartering, they've got huge numbers and they get good video views because they've got loyal audiences that will follow them to other platforms. But someone who's just doing my beauty vlog, I'll leave that on YouTube because I wouldn't get them following me because it's ugly people. But it's time. The thing is going to change slowly. We're going to see a decentralization. People are not going to be solely reliant on YouTube. They're going to spread out and create these other platforms. And in America, they've got this thing, RC Pilot, I think it is, which, like RC Groups, RC Universe. They're doing the same thing. I think the guy was involved in RC Universe, and he's setting up RC Pilot with the backing of the AMA. And they're going to have a video server, and they're going to have forums, and they're going to have buy and sell and all that sort of stuff. So you're going to create little communities which are vertically oriented, and they could really make a dent if enough of them are formed. And a lot of the YouTube thing, YouTube will just be where you go to watch cute cat videos and people doing reaction videos to movies and things. That'll probably be where it ends up.
Donovan's saying reasonable to use YouTube's free video storage and delivery, but the trouble is you're going to, I'm probably jumping on Bruce saying this, but you're going to alienate your audiences with adverts that you have no control over. At the minute, we can say when we want adverts to happen. We can't now, can we? No, we can't.
Well, if you're a member of the partner program, you can still determine what ads run. If you're not in the partner program, you'll have no control. So you can imagine that YouTube will just start throwing mid-rolls all in at random.
Can I turn mine off now, Bruce? If I choose to turn them off as a partner, then can we because they choose when. I'm just thinking, can they override our decision now not to have ads? I get the impression we have control, but everyone else doesn't.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I haven't seen them. I haven't heard of anyone saying they've overridden their settings. So, I've never. Some people have said they had a mid-roll in one of my videos, but they've never been able to produce a video to prove it. Yeah. And no one. There's not a widespread thing. So I think it is. We still have control at this stage.
Don't forget your sample button as well. They've brought in.
The what? Sorry,
they can use our content on the shorts.
Yes.
But they're going to do a bulk opt-out, but they haven't provided it yet. Maybe like 5 years down the track.
Yeah, they're always a bit weird on this stuff, don't they? They introduce something with very little thought on how the creator's going to manage it. We had it before, didn't we, Bruce? We had to change. I changed all the mid-rolls in all my videos. Why is there not a global setting for advertising that you can simply go, I want ads at the start, at the end, that's it, job done. Whereas no, you've got to go in and change everyone individually.
And I was watching a video by Fran, I forget what her channel's called. She's she's got an electronics channel, sort of friend of Dave Jones. And she had a viral video. It was about UFOs, this announcement, the UFOs have been, the footage is going to be released, and she got over 2 million views, I think, in a matter of a month. And she was saying that the tools for managing her channel are not suited to large flows. And I know too, because they have this where they put comments aside for you to moderate later. If they trigger some kind of thing, they get put in a different thing, and you have to go through and approve or disprove them. That's fine when you get like 4 or 5 a day, but she's got like thousands of comments a day that she has to go through and moderate, and there's no bulk. She can't just flag them all and say, yes, allow them. You've got to go through one by one by one. And it's a really slow process. And apparently YouTube's response is, hire some staff to do that for you. Great.
Well, if you paid us reasonably with the advertising and stop taking the money away, then we could do that. Otherwise, no.
And don't forget extra tax for Uncle Sam.
Yeah, absolutely. But then talking about, better pull it back towards the drone thing in the last 22 minutes before I have to go, before the power goes off. Ian, back to Ian, and another video is now a historic flight. that he is preparing there, getting your old FPV machine going. Now, where are we at with that? What's happening with that?
Yeah, where is it? It's here somewhere.
That was a live cast to fall asleep to.
It was.
Anyway,
I was just bored, so I put it. Yeah, we're going to build the TBS again, the old TBS.
You should call it the Asimir drone, the one that puts you to sleep.
The pinnacle of FPV in its day.
but with the super duper long arms, so you'd be in that. What is that meter class?
Yeah, I fitted this with S500 arms, which were the extended RC timer ones with the DJI propulsion system off the Inspire 1. It's capable of 8,000 grams of thrust. It's got a bit of power to it.
Just watch those arms fold.
It flaps.
It is a good. Yeah, I've run out of washers because there's some modification needed when fitting these to it. But yeah, we're going to put it back together on a modern frame. I remember the last time I flew it, the flight stacks couldn't quite keep up with the power. The PIDs just wouldn't accept how much power it had. I'd be interested to see how these have come on now. I'm probably going to go Ardra Pilot on it.
Yeah, so you should be all right, shouldn't you? I think.
It was just it just the PIDs couldn't scale because it was so overpowered. It would always oscillate on max throttle. It was always as she went up.
Just wind up the TPA, you'll be fine.
Just novel.
So
everyone's doing it, so I felt left out.
Hey, mine's a Discovery.
Actually, historic flight. I should get this going again, shouldn't I?
Mark's got the NASA in there that likes to head off into the sunset.
Only
what
if
do I do with a battery for them?
Do you know, everyone says, the NASA heads off into the sunset. Never had it happen.
I did once.
It's because you only fly at night.
Dave, you don't fly it, you don't.
Yeah, don't trust me. Mine did it one day. I was one of those people that said, I don't understand all these people that have it, until I sat there and it went, whoa, and I'm going, oh, okay, that's what this feeling feels like.
I'm saying back in the kites. You're right, Wolf. You're right.
I did have it on an was it the S800 did it to me? But you just flick it into ATI and it comes back.
I've only had aircraft fly away on me. But anyway, I'm moving on very swiftly.
James says the only problem with distributed is it's everything everywhere, and people don't like everything everywhere, and that tends to be what drags everything back around. There's a reason why your TVs now have all of these programs on board. We have everything distributed. You don't want 10 little smart boxes below it. You have your TV, which have access to Netflix, Amazon Prime, Sky, and it's but yes, YouTube is an animal we all have to love or hate. We do both of them at both times. I'll be interested to see what happens with the monetization, if it changes.
I know what else I wanted to, not in this one. I wanted to have
I've noticed a lot of 6-second ads coming up now, and I think that's the really bottom of the ad budget, and they're flicking them out because 6-second ads, they can place them anywhere. I think we'll see a proliferation of those unskippable 6-second ads.
Oh no, it's definitely rolled out here ahead of a lot of the rest of the world. It is definitely in full force here, and it's definitely making YouTube almost not watchable for day-to-day YouTube watching. Continuous adverts and long adverts, but also the advertisers are surely going to run out of spend on this, and they're going to get no return. The price will
just keep dropping. They've got so much ad space now. They can almost give those ads away. In fact, they will. I'll say, buy $10 worth of AdWords, and we'll give you $50 for free.
Okay, all right. I hadn't thought about that.
Because the other motive is to drive people to the subscription, the YouTube Premium, and that's more money in YouTube space. So they want to make it intolerable unless you pay them money every month.
Now, I wanted to talk about this as well. Now, this has got claims of great aerodynamics on it. What do we think? Discuss. Do we really think hanging a box that looks like a wing?
Well, that's stupid. I built a pizza box flyer years ago. You just get a pizza box, put a motor on it. Why bother with the drone?
Is it me? Is it me? Or is that the fighter airframe?
Is it a fuel roof box?
It's a roof box. Yeah. Well, but surely just the aerodynamics of this thing.
Well, that's a Clark White pizza box.
Clark White pizza box. Exactly.
It's a new roof
That's
box
what.
for your car. That's what it is.
What size wingspan on that? That looks like a fighter airframe. What's the wingspan?
No, it's an N22 aerofoil. I've nearly got X45 out today to have a play with this, but I couldn't be asked.
But does it come with anchovies or what?
Question: Does it?
To me, this looks like a silly idea.
Is it going
What
to
do
be
you think?
pizza delivery cars will have these on top and the drone will just come along, grab it, and then take it to the next place for them? So if you get stuck in a traffic jam and you've got your pizzas on top of your car, because obviously it's a car roof carrier, one of those car roof cargo boxes, isn't it?
I just think it's going to be fighting like Billio with the stabilities. I can't. And there's going to be all sorts of weird pressure in the middle there.
It's what we used to call a biplane.
Yeah, it's a wing. It's just a wing underneath, isn't it? It is wing shaped.
Yeah, but
I guess they want extra lift, but teardrop would be the least draggy shape. But it's like, really, you're going to do that? How are you going to get the pizza out of there when you're delivering it? Do you actually land vertically and then, I don't know, what? Because you've got to winch it down, or what do you do?
How many pizzas are? I'm going to have to go to. It's a year since I've been to a pizza place, and I'll go with a set of scales. How many pizzas weigh a kilo? Because that's for 3 pizzas.
All the toppings.
What about the Diet Coke? What about the Coke I ordered?
Oh yeah. All right. But aerodynamically, I don't think that makes. I can't think that makes a lot of sense. I should imagine some grown-ups would have lots of.
All it has to do is
about
appeal to the venture capitalists.
That's very true. Hatchback suffers so. Hang on. Because the hatch causes drag. Yeah. I don't see that. But I thought I would put that to the panel to see what the considerations were. I'm not sure what the answer was.
There's no answer to that, is there?
Anyway, so it'll be a 12S powertrain. It's how big is it? It's the only question, really. It's going to be a 12S powertrain, though.
But yeah, it's I can just imagine coming into. I can just imagine any wind and I could go on and on and on and on. And you're still never going to beat the kid on a moped who's getting paid minimum wage delivering that pizza. it's never going to be beaten.
And you'd have to call your place Fine Day Pizzas because you could fly at night or in the rain or in the wind and
The whole AAIB thing, which James, I'll send you an invite, but we are only here for another 14 minutes. Let me do that. Which AAIB thing? Hang on. I don't know quick. Anyone think which one James means? I'm going to send it to you on Facebook.
Unless it's on about the Phantom RTK.
The RTK, where they recommend banning everything. Ban it all. Ban
it. Ban a lot of them. Gosh, solve the whole problems. No more worries about rules. Just ban the lot.
Ban it all.
Hang on. Your invite is coming very, very shortly.
And while you're waiting, don't forget, go to the link in my last video and complete the survey for the New Zealand Ministry of Transport, telling them that they can put their rules where the sun don't shine.
Well, funny enough, so we have something from
Skywise once again.
Ian, are you signed up to Skywise?
Yes.
Did you see the low-flying military thing, the new system? I thought that was quite interesting. So the new radio UHF, is it
common
VHF?
frequency?
Yeah,
130 point something. Yeah,
I thought that's really nice. That's really clever. And then there's no way for a drone to join that. I thought so. That's a half-cocked idea then.
Well, you just keep a listening watch. You've got an RT license, haven't you? You can keep a listening watch on the frequency, and away you go. Here's James. Go for it, James. Tell us about the AIB. You've got new lights there, lockdown lights.
It is, yeah. No, so I don't know. You all saw, obviously. Well, a lot of you probably already seen it, but I know something quite interesting is they came out at the end and they talked about drones not being able to be allowed to overfly people unless until we have failure data on each of these aircraft. So I think this is quite an interesting political move, and I don't know whether this is intended or whether it was, or whether it's just kind of like their recommendation. But it basically creates a precedent now for manufacturers to start releasing failure data for aircraft, which actually I think could be a positive thing. Now, I kind of discussed this within RPAS as to whether this is something that we could put together a survey and actually ask drone pilots. I think the first port of call would obviously be to go and get it from the horse's mouth and from the manufacturers themselves. But whether or not manufacturers would want to publish that kind of data, or whether they would do it sort of pseudo publicly, so they release the data but only to a select few under like NDA or something like that. That could be a potential option here. But yeah, the conclusion is certainly a little bit worrying when they sort of talk about, I think some of the conclusions I think are debatable, but certainly you can't prove them wrong for sure. I think they talked about if a phantom falls on top of someone, there's a very high probability it would kill them. Which I think is taken from, what's it called? Is it called Drops?
Drops.
Yeah, Drops, that's the one. So, yeah, I think that thing needs to be probably remodeled to include the fact that these things have air resistance and aren't solid lumps of metal.
Drops. That's what Drops is made for. And look, this is even better. It's got a screwdriver end on it. So this is a Hammer Plus.
I'm not particularly surprised at that. Okay, you tap your head on a stone, you can kill yourself. So let's be realistic.
Which is what they do on a Sunday in Wales, isn't it? After chapel, it's head tapping. Sunday head tapping. Yeah.
Anything hits you on the head, there is the real potential for death. So if we're going to use drones, you then have to look at probability. It's not so much about a drone falling from the sky can cause death. It's the probability of it actually happening is what they need to look at, not the fact it's a reality. Just like the probability of an engine falling off an aircraft like we saw in the US, or bits of its paneling falling off and nearly going through someone's roof. The probability of it happening is fairly low. Now, it depends the aircraft, obviously we know the A1, the A2s, and the C classes, which means yes, people might be flying Mavic Minis over, but still, I don't know. It's all about probabilities in my eyes, not the chances of it actually killing the person.
So here's my problem with it to a degree. So why is it someone can go in a plane by themselves? So you can get in a plane by yourself. You can fly around the sky. Now, we've had it, sadly, where helicopters have hit each other. Manned aviation now, they've had a few air collisions with one person in the cockpit. Why is it now not mandatory to have a second person then when you're up there to keep a second lookout? Why?
Well, I think you got a point, and I think if the failure rate data is released, then we'll have some numbers for that. I can't see it would be, but it wouldn't be a bad thing. It's not a bad thing if that eventually came along. But what it will then will give us is to compare it against manned aviation and compare it against the death rate per flying hour by manned aviation. And so they might be thinking they're opening up a can of worms that's going to cause us drama.
They can't do a comparison. They can't do a per hour flown with drones because you can't divide by zero.
Yeah. And in the UK,
there's no death, so completely you can't draw a ratio.
Okay.
So sadly, Bruce is right. In the UK, we've had CAP 722 since 2020. We're now 21 years later. No one's died yet from a drone or a multirotor. So
it's only a matter of time.
Canadian one, yes, it is. In fact, it is.
I think the problem. The problem is what they've got at the moment is they kind of see, they look at a crash and they kind of say, okay, that's going to cause a fatality. But what they're forgetting is the fact that actually crashing into a person is incredibly difficult to do unless you're literally hovering over a crowd of people. Like, I can understand at a concert or something like that. That makes complete sense because the chances are reasonably high that you're going to hit someone if you're hovering over a huge crowd of people. But when you start working it out, I actually done like a spreadsheet, done a little calculator thing where you can basically put in the area of your survey area. You can put in the number of people that you would expect to be within that. And given the size of your drone, you can basically work out what the probability of hitting someone is during that flight. And then when you start going, and so you can start adding mitigations, because you could say, okay, well, first mitigation is we'll put some observers within that area, near only populated areas. Secondly, you could put a parachute on, or you could do a 3-propeller recovery, or you could maybe pick a time when there's a reduced number of people. And when you start put that in, plus your probability of your failure rate, it then pops out with a number which basically says, you know, are you 1 × 10⁻⁶, which I think is the generally agreed number which they sort of like for or accept for drones. And actually, you know, you can get away with there being lots of people around, and still the probability of hitting someone is like 1 in 10,000 chance of actually hitting someone given a failure, because the ground is very big, and if you're going to come down and hit someone, the only way you're going to really kill them is if you hit them on the head. And it's, I don't know if you've ever tried to, like, I don't know, throw a paper ball at someone's head in the office or something like that, but it's actually quite difficult to hit people in the head.
You'd never kill a regulator because they have their heads up their backsides all the time.
True. It's very true. It's very true.
So when that M600 crashed, do you remember the M600 crash that went in the garden, everyone?
Yeah.
Did they say ban overflight then? Because I don't think they did they?
No.
And that's a damn sight heavier machine. And it went into a back garden as well, you know, where kids...
But it's a funny old report, and plenty people have died in general aviation in just the UK in the time that was written. So one might almost say, get your own house in order, as it were. As Michael's saying, try RC combat flying. It is quite hard to hit another aircraft.
When I did that video with the Outlaw 250 flying it into myself, it took quite a few tries before I was able to hit myself, and you can't get much closer than yourself when you're standing near a target.
No, when you are the target. Yeah, it's a funny one. I think they must be careful of not wishing to get more information that further down the line is going to cause them more cause manned aviation problems, because I think it will. It'll prove how safe we are.
Regulators will not use the science that disagrees with them in response to James. If you do that same calculation in terms of the cubic or the three-dimensional mass of the airspace versus drones and aircraft, you'll find the numbers are infinitesimal, which is what the George Mason University did when they calculated the odds of a collision between a plane and a drone based on bird strike data. The odds of an aircraft and a drone being in the same piece of airspace at the same time are almost negligible, and that's way lower than the acceptable danger level or acceptable risk level for manned aviation and anything else.
What would be interesting as well, so let's say DJI did release the data on how many Phantom 4 Pros have crashed. Now, will they be able to determine pilot error versus an actual proper failure? Where are you going to draw the line on this thing that falls out of the sky? So if it was to hit a building, is that human error or is it then machine error?
The building jumped out.
Yeah, you know, if you hit a tree, where would they ask DJI to draw that line on it being a pilot error? How do they sort out the pilot error versus, you know, an actual failure from the aircraft which puts something at risk? How would you see that data coming across?
Do you know what I reckon? If they were to release data, the data would show there's more DJI aircraft in the bottom of cupboards than there are actually flying. I think that's what of the total numbers out there, there's more doing nothing than actually out there. Look, guys, I'm going to have to go. We're going to lose power very, very, very shortly. Look, I have my torch ready to find my way around the house in just a minute and a half's time. So I will prepare for that moment now. So thank you very much. Thank you wherever you are, dear viewer in the world. Thanks for joining us, James. Sorry we can't go on longer. Yeah, there we are. Get the lighter out if I smoked. Look after yourselves wherever you are in the world. We'll see you again, same time next week, 2100 GMT. Silly news inserts every day. Take care of yourselves, everybody. Bye-bye for now.